You better than me. You better than me. You better than me.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the You Better Than Me podcast. I am here again with my girl, Fallon. What's up, Fallon?
Hey, girl. Hey.
Hey. So, y'all, let me just go ahead and tell y'all, this recording has taken us forever to do. I do not know what was going on with Fallon's computer, but let me just say it wasn't acting right. She I don't know what was going on.
My computer out here acting like it got the claps or something. It's over
Oh,
here
Lord.
malfunctioning, like it got that
Oh,
woman disease. Like I was just having some issues. Wasn't working.
Yeah,
Computer
Fallon
wasn't
said
working.
today her computer had the nasty woman's disease, and I had to just let her know we ain't using that term because
Shout out to A Color Purple. That's Black
right.
history, though. That is Black history. It's a Black.
You know what? I forgot that it came from The Color Purple.
See, and you just out here thinking I'm just saying stuff.
Yeah, I'm like, we can't perpetuate stigmas over here, so you know.
No, my computer was malfunctioning. I'll use a different term of art. I won't say the claps or the nasty woman's disease. I'll say that my computer had some type of virus per se, or some type of
disgusting.
illness per se. But never want to be the one out here perpetuating some type of falsity. I mean, it's bad enough in the world that you got the whole tips and people going crazy talking about the Disney trying to brain poison your kids with the cartoons they showing. Let me not be considered one of those people.
Yeah, you're not one of those people, but since you brought up the nasty woman disease, I think we should start speaking about, let me go ahead and give a little viewer discretion because, we're going to be talking about some real stuff today. And I like to kick off our topic today about sex. Let's talk about
sex, baby.
So the reason why I find this to be so important is because we're in the back to school season. That means that the college students are going back to college. And I just think back to my freshman year in college and things that went on.
Lord.
Did your parents actually talk to you about sex? Like even before college, like did you guys sit down and have that conversation?
Girl. Oh, Lord. The actual conversation, other than a blanket, don't you mess around and have no babies type of conversation.
Okay.
No, I can't necessarily recall a straightforward, let's sit down, talk about the birds and the bees conversation. Now, granted, I probably was a little bit more advanced in my girlhood because I did read a whole lot of stuff I probably shouldn't have been reading. Because that 4th grade reading Some Flowers in the Attic taught me a lot about life. So I didn't necessarily have like a lot of questions. Then I grew up around a lot of dudes, like cousins and stuff. So it was always like talk or access to like magazines or stuff.
And background noise.
Around. Right. It was always kind of there. I mean, I had a big brother growing up. So, I mean, I'm hearing about some things. I'm seeing my mama have some tough conversations with him. But I don't think my parents ever sat down and was like, this is sex, la, 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 like on the TV. I don't think that ever happened.
Yeah, so I grew up with my grandparents and my mom was still very active in my life. But I grew up living in a household with my grandparents. So that definitely wasn't a topic of conversation. I do know that they didn't sit me down. My grandma was just like, when I went to high school, if you get pregnant, I ain't buying you no more Charlie Hilfiger. And I'm like, it's actually Tommy Hilfiger, not Charlie. But she said Charlie. And so I knew that I wanted to continue wearing my Charlie Hilfiger, that I knew I could not get pregnant in high school or whatever. But my aunt, she did buy me books about my body and different things like that. And those books would be illustrated and they would also kind of go into a little something. Now, it was age appropriate, but she did give me those books, but she didn't sit down either and talk to me about it. And I just think that now with sex being so in our face, we have social media. So kids are exposed at an early age. And then we have television shows where like, I feel like some things are just coming on earlier too. Like some of this stuff used to come on at like 10 o'clock when the kids are in bed, but now at 7 o'clock, you can turn on the show and they getting right to it. And they might not be showing everything, but you can insinuate what's going to happen.
It's a lot different than when we were kids.
So, yeah.
And, you know, not to date ourselves, but like it's at a certain time, the TV went off. At a certain time, the videos were still pretty R&B-ish. They wasn't showing the nasty videos and the pumps and the bump until like after 10 o'clock. So you was having to stay up late or like sneak and pretend like you sleep to watch the Skinamax at your grandma's house or something, or like watch the little soft, gentle touching videos.
I watch Skinamax. I feel like I was introduced to sex early via TV because I watched Skinamax. I watched Real Sex. Ooh, Real Sex was my show. I watched Taxi Cab Confessions. Yeah, I watched Taxi Cab Confessions before. I shouldn't have been watching this stuff, but I was watching it, and so that just opened up my mind. You know, along with my family not telling me things. So,
and that's wild. Like I could literally remember like waiting for my mama to go to bed. My sister would be in her room on the phone and my daddy would be out late working or whatever. And I'll be trying to like sneak up there like, okay, we gonna watch this for like 10 minutes. And then I'm gonna peep around the corner and see if anybody's coming in like watching Real Sex and all this stuff. Or like old
girl, we had that back button. We used to put that back button on CNN. And then if we hear somebody watching, we press that back button and then go to cartoon.
Real quick. Like that was like a first addition, like knowledge of doing it. Like between the songs and stuff, like provocative lyrics, like I ain't even gonna lie, it took me into probably like college to know what step back your dancing kind of close means. But I was a little basic.
Really?
I don't know. I was I'll say that I was an early knowledge possessor because I did read a lot and all these things, but your girl was like very prude. I was very gung-ho about purity rings and like my flower and all this stuff. Like when I went to college, I was definitely on the V squad. I can remember like coming to college in Louisiana. If you from another state, like, or like a big city, you're automatically a celebrity. So I'm like, okay, I'm from Houston. People just would come up to me like, oh, you a Houston girl. Oh, you know what's up. You H-Town. And I was just like, yeah. Like no knowledge, not even knowing what they're talking about. And I can remember like just the people that lived in my dorm room, they would just be so exasperated with me because I would be like playing with dolls and shit. But then they'd be like, oh, well, you need to figure this out. We tired of you being a virgin. It's time to get it cracking. Shout out to my old friends who about it, I guess. I don't know.
That you say that because before I went to college, I lost my V card a week after prom. So I was 17 and my cousin was like, she was very gung-ho. She was like, listen, everything that you haven't done, you need to do before you go to college. She was like, you need to get drunk. So, you know, I had alcohol and I'm not telling anyone else to do this, but that's why I didn't drink my freshman or my sophomore year of college because I was exposed to alcohol already. And then she was like, you need to lose your virginity because you don't want to go to school being a little thought. She didn't say thought. She said another word, but I was like, okay. So, you know, I did it or whatever. And I was like, okay, I don't really like this. I remember doing it. Where I did it at, I called my friend to tell her that I had done it. One of my best friends. Girl, just dumb. And I guess I forgot that we had like caller ID. So the caller ID popped up with the hotel name on it. So her mama, So her mom was like, oh my gosh, Toot lost her virginity. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so freaking embarrassed. But, you know, I did that a couple of times until my ex-boyfriend, I don't know if he's listening, but if he is, he was just like, I'm going to get you pregnant so you don't go to school. I was like, we're not doing it no more. And guess what? Because that wasn't going to happen because I knew if I got pregnant, I wasn't going to go to school and then I wasn't going to be able to wear my Charlie Hilfiger and it was not going down because I still had to be cute.
I was so like set on living like a book fantasy that I was just like, I would think like, today's the day we're going to go here. And it's just going to be like the day that Elizabeth and Jessica, the Sweet Valley twins, plan to lose their virginity. Like I would have all these elaborate plans, and I could think of like one of my homegirls being like, "Girl, that's stupid. Don't do that. Why you got to do all of that?" Like, girl, like literally laughing. I don't know, Kia, if you listening, like, child, I should have been like. It's so fun. Like I think of these things and I laugh because I was very much so like in high school, just Captain Planet of like boy craziness, but like virginity. So like I
Right.
could go back and look at my senior book and like all these people making comments. Oh my, what are they going? What you gonna do? What is Bunny May gonna do without you watching you? You gonna be in college with all these boys? Oh my, like it's like 30 people wrote comments like that. Like, oh, you finally gonna get some action? I'm like, whoa, let me
In
not
your
be.
yearbook?
Girl, yes. Like it's all kind of
Y'all
comments.
was bold.
I went to a hood school.
I did
Child.
too, but ain't nobody write that.
No, I could literally look at my senior book and be like, okay, this person, hopefully you don't get turned out. Don't be too fast at college. Oh yeah, it's gonna be boys there. Oh my, like
Oh
people
my
literally wrote
gosh.
stuff in there. But I was extra. I would be like, oh my God, I heard this song. Let me hit it by Silk the Shocker, and now I'm scared because he said hit it, and then I'm just like, I don't want it to hurt. Like I had all these weird
No,
scenarios.
I did too. But with your weird scenarios, do you think now looking back on it, you would have been more comfortable had you had a conversation with not even just your parents, an older brother, sister, like a real sit down. This is what's going to happen. This is what your body does. This is blah, blah, blah. This is how you're going to feel.
I think so. I feel like because my brother, like he passed away, he was killed like when he was 18, but he had kids on the way. So I saw like outside looking in, like teenage sex and teen pregnancy
Right.
and all this stuff. And then my sister is like a year younger than him. So with all of that going on, it's like kind of she didn't necessarily talk or have like a regular life because after he died, my parents were very strict. They was on some, oh, you can't go out, you can't do anything. Mind you, this was her
Right.
senior year of college. So we did not talk about dating or sex or like relationships or anything. Like the focus was mainly on like keeping us safe. So
Yeah.
every conversation was like safety, safety, be careful, be careful. But it was never like be careful with your body or be careful with this. Now my mama was very steadfast about now you're gonna get on some pills before you leave this house.
Really?
Yes, like you're gonna be on some pills before you leave this house and go to Louisiana. But even then, like when I showed up at college, I was like super V squad. Like I couldn't even talk to boys on the phone until the 12th grade. Like literally couldn't even talk on the like
Dang,
I would have I would have to have my best friend in high school call my boyfriend in high school on the
on
phone,
three-way.
call me on three-way and then hang up. And I can remember like that didn't work one time. So the phone rang and it was him. And my daddy answered the phone. And like my daddy was just, he didn't like, I didn't get no whoopings or nothing like that, but he was just so stern that all he had to do was like look at me and I would just cower, like, damn, I done messed up. So like that whole night, I was just like, oh my God, now my daddy probably thinks I'm like a slut bucket or something. I'm a boy didn't call the house or whatever. And it just so happens like that next morning, my freaking car wouldn't start. I'm like, all right, God, you funny, you got games or whatever. So I'm like outside
Right.
trying to start the car. Car wouldn't start. So I had to come back in the house, ask my daddy to take me to school after I'd already been scared stiff the whole entire night, thinking I'm about to get in trouble. And like I could just remember us driving in silence. And then I'm like pulling up, he's pulling up to like the school and being like, you need to talk to your sister or somebody about life. And I was like, okay, but that was it. That was the only thing he said. And then I was just
Oh
thinking,
my
like, I
God.
don't know what I'm gonna ask her about life. She don't know nothing about life
And
either.
see, I feel like that just gives us such a disadvantage because I know, like in middle school, I went to a more diverse school. Actually, it was predominantly white, and I don't know what them kids was doing, but I know that other people are able to be more freeing with
Yeah.
their body. There isn't
Like
a lot of
dating even.
taboo around sex like it is in the Black community. It's like they
No.
experience things, and it's just like we don't have that same experience. Like we could wear a short dress and now we a hoe. And we never
Okay.
even had sex. We've never even
Yeah.
seen a penis or anything like that. But then that becomes the essence of who we are. Whereas other people, they don't even think that a BJ is anything serious.
Girl, I can literally remember like a rite of passage, like 6th grade, all of my white girls
Mhm.
being able to date, and like it's like a big deal. Like, oh my
Wear
God, I got
mascara.
a hickey, like all these things, and then my
Yep.
ass still got fucking 4 ponytails, and I'm having to pull back just so it don't look like they ponytails at
Girl.
school. And everybody else got freezes and French rolls, but my mom and my daddy was very pro natural hairish. I ain't had no perm. So I'm over here with
Dang.
grease and a pink roller
I hate
band.
you missed out on the freeze, babe.
I
Them
did.
freeze curls was
No, I had none of
everything.
that. I was ponytails
Woo.
into like 9th grade. Like it was terrible. I was like such outside looking in, like probably the biggest nerd ever. I did not blossom until like 10th grade, and I had to beg to comb my own hair in the 9th grade. But that's a whole nother story. So you know damn well if they wouldn't let me get no perm and barely press my hair, because my daddy was very anti straighten your hair like white people. It was like you got pretty hair, wear your hair how it is. So I like sneaking to straighten my hair, sneaking to flat iron my hair. That's the kind of restrictions I was moving with in high school. So you know damn well that's why everybody was
Man.
predicting I'm gonna get turned out when I went to college. Like
Right, I
you had like a
see.
lot of restrictions. I mean, it was bad. Now it was kind of like a double-edged sword though, because everybody was assuming just because I was from Houston that I was just about that life. And then I had read so many books and I had that fly mouth. I'm just talking all this shit and like not really being able to back it up.
You was talking about it, but you weren't being about it.
I was talking big shit, lying on my cat, like how they be like lying on my dick, probably lying on my cat,
Mhm.
like just really perpetrating like this lifestyle that I'm just, oh yeah, girl, yeah, you never heard about that? Knowing it's some shit I done read in a book. So the people I was with really were like, but you a virgin though. But it'll be like, but I'm from Houston. Shh, don't tell nobody. Like, we gonna pretend. Like we just gonna talk that talk so much that it's gonna be like real life. So that was what I was doing. So yeah, the
Wow.
lack of a conversation probably led me to a lot of mishaps that I probably wouldn't have encountered had I actually had some type of conversation with somebody. Because I was getting like on the job training from other people in my dorm. like, like I probably have some of the like just craziest freaking stories. Like, because
I had the
the
OJ
way
too.
the way my imagination used to work, like it used to be like a Trina song or something about riding a dick or something. And in my
Oh my
brain, like
gosh.
I had a friend from Florida, so she had all these Trina CDs, and I want a dick like a anaconda. Like this was her thing. She was just
Right.
so Florida out talking that Florida shit, and my dumb ass is really just like, oh my God, what am I gonna do with an anaconda? Like these are the thoughts in my little honest college head, but also trying to perpetrate and hold up my Houston rep because you know I'm an H-Town girl. I'm from the 4-4. I'm supposed to know these things. You know, I went to school with high school with Slim Thug. I'm supposed to know this. But I can remember like going to one of my friends' room and asking her, what does ride dick mean? This girl drew me a diagram. Like I used to keep this.
Oh
Like
my
she
gosh.
literally drew me an illustration of like what you were supposed to do. And I was like, okay, thank you. Like I literally had this piece of paper where this girl had drawn pictures of like different positions.
That is too funny.
Yeah, these were the things going down in the honors college dorm in 2000 at the
That's funny.
at the college.
Because we're speaking just about like just basic sex right now. So like we about to up the ante just a little bit because, and I said already, viewer discretion is advised. But up in the
Child.
ante just a little bit, I'm pushing it over to oral sex. Like, of course, that's the basic sex. Now, boom, I done did that, lost my virginity. Now it comes down to the other things. So I remember calling my friend. I'm like, I remember being in high school, and one thing I specifically said, I'm never gonna say I'm not gonna do anything because I don't know what type of person I'm gonna be when I grow up. And what if I want to try it? I don't ever want to say I won't do something and then I do something. Like I was always just in my head, like thinking
Yeah.
about stuff. So maybe that's my juvenile part of me. But I remember calling my best friend, and my best friend went to Grambling. And so I was like, well, how do you do blah, blah, blah? She was like, girl, just get a popsicle and practice. And I'm like, how do I know if I'm doing it right? He was like, he'll let you know if you're doing it right. And then I remember coming home, and I think this was like maybe my freshman year. We had this like a bowl game in my city that we always would have against my school and then Fort Valley. And I remember we were at the Waffle House, and this was when I had just experienced somebody performing oral sex on me. Lost my effing mind. So my older cousin, who was like my big sister, that was telling me I had to have sex and drink before I went to college, she was there with her friends. So I would say she was probably like, we're 12 years apart. So she was probably like early 30s at that point. And I'm there with my friends at the table just talking. And she like, because I told her, she's like, look at her ass over there. She done just got her little cat done or whatever. And she is going crazy. I was like, oh my gosh, girl, it was so good. Like just being so extra about it. And I'm just like, wow, like people do this, but no one told us that
Nobody
this
told us.
is supposed to be happening. No one told us this is how you feel. No one said this is how you protect yourself. And that's why this conversation is so important. You know, for us, you and I don't have kids yet. That may be in our cards, but do you think that, you know, if and when you have children, are you going to sit down and have the talk with them?
Absolutely. I feel like keeping your kids on lockdown is a recipe for disaster.
Disaster.
And while you talking about that, I'm like, damn, do I have a you better than me moment before it's even that time? Because you better than me. Because the first time that happened to me, I went back to my dorm room and I like cried. And then I was like, oh my God, I'm going to catch something. And I don't know. And I can't believe this person did this. And like my same homegirl from Florida was like, oh, shut up, girl.
Her.
This is regular. Like she was, that was a good, she taught me a lot of things that year, but I can just remember like, well, don't worry about it, girl. Now you can add that to your list. You good. Like, what you crying for?
Oh my gosh, my friend said that too. You can add that to your list. So
right. But my ass is over here like, oh my God, I'm gonna have to go back to the clinic. And don't even get me started on that too, because I did work in the clinic in college. That was my work study.
My
so
God.
I was very paranoid about catching things and all of that. And I regret that our college wasn't more transparent too. Because even then, like, you know, a whole bunch of people in college, you get there and you don't know anything. The most sex education I could think about in college was them having condoms in the bathroom at the club that everybody went to on Thursdays.
Really? I don't even remember condoms just being out. I feel like maybe at one fair, but not often. I never remember a lot of condoms being out. Like, I don't even know.
That was it. You see you a little lifestyle up in upscale.
Okay, no, I did see some lifestyles. Yeah.
And I don't even know if that's like, I don't even know if that's a respectable brand or anything, but that was like everybody's.
Back then it was.
To that. Like that was the only thing that I knew. Now I knew people were catching stuff because I worked in the clinic on campus. So I was seeing people coming back there and like walk shaming out or whatever. So I knew that it was some stuff in the water and that you had to be careful. But I don't think too many people put too much thought in it. Like now we have more awareness, we have more education, we have more advocacy. Like all of those things were not really prevalent in 2000. Like it was kind of a lot of misconceptions, a lot of, you know, jokes or just people being careless. I don't think that was something that benefited our generation, but I do believe that it could benefit the next one. So yeah, long answer short to your question, yes, I definitely know that we will be talking to our children about sex and like protecting themselves, intimacy, like all of that stuff. Like,
that's what I was about to say too, because even before you get to the sex talk, you have to have, especially for younger kids, good touch, bad touch. And then that goes over into, you know, even until you become I'll say preteen, teen or whatever, because you still should know what's a good touch, what's a bad touch. It also goes into knowing your body with your whatever, you know what I mean? And I feel like these are just conversations that we miss out on. And I just think that it's imperative that, you know, when and if we have children, that we are definitely speaking to our kids about.
Yeah, we might as well take a break on that one. The mic is getting a little hot. Let's go ahead and pay the church's money real quick. Right.
Do you have a business, brand, or even a creative idea? Pyro Media Network can help you design a strategy to make your brand impactful. Visit www.pyromedianetwork.com today to schedule a free consultation. Pyro Media Network, next level media.
I feel like people do be educating their children now though, because
I
like
do too.
I friends with children, like even like the young ones, they know the accurate names for stuff. And growing
Right.
up, we were calling stuff like pet names and like stuff
Mm-hmm.
that really could get misconstrued. If someone were to actually harm a child, like you can't my cookie, if somebody touched my cookie, and like that could be lost in translation so easily.
Definitely.
So you got to teach them like proper terms. You got to teach them like inviting a hug. Like if you don't want somebody
Mm-hmm.
to hug you, you can say no. Like it's a lot of stuff that kids kind of have the advantage that we didn't, because I don't even think when we were growing up you kind of had the liberty. If you didn't want to hug a grown person, you couldn't really say
You
no.
had to hug your cousin. That's your cousin. Like you couldn't say no.
Yeah.
But I will say, back in the day, one of my favorite movies, Kindergarten Cop, they did have that one kid that said, boys have a penis
Yeah.
and girls have a vagina. So at least one child knew,
Yeah, one child
because
did,
he
but
probably a child.
we
He
didn't.
had progressive parents, not like
Exactly.
us.
Yeah, but no shade to our parents. I feel like it's
No.
a generational thing. I feel like a lot of Black people were taught mainly to survive. And a lot of those conversations about survival are not centered around like romance or being able to love on
Right.
your husband or being able to enjoy sex. Like
Or having intimacy, because
slavery.
intimacy does
What you
not.
say? Your answer to everything. The problem is slavery. Like you can't form romantic connections if you are fearful that your partner gonna get sent away. Like I feel like
Oh yeah,
it's
of
just
course.
generational.
And that's why I say intimacy too, because intimacy isn't always sex, But again, when you think about back in the day, you weren't being intimate because you was working in the field. If you had kids, if you didn't have kids, you was raising somebody else's kids. So
Yeah.
I definitely feel like that is something that we miss out. And then to throw another curveball in and I'm only speaking from my experience because everybody does not have this experience, but sometimes when you throw in the Black church, then that presents a problem as well, because of course, we all know what the Bible says about premarital sex. So then you have us who we're not talked to about it, and then we're terrified to have it, and then we don't know what the outcome is of doing it. So you've never been educated on it, and so you can end up or find yourself in situations where you become pregnant because you didn't know what you should have done, or somebody might tell you the first time you can't get pregnant or whatever. And these are just so many lies that have been told to people down the years, and people have kids because of it.
Yeah, no, I really hate that we as a community and as a generation did miss out on a lot of the sensitivity training with those topics that a lot of our counterparts received. I feel like even dating was kind of like taboo. Parents weren't necessarily encouraging people to date. At least my parents or friends' parents weren't. Like it was never like, oh, we're all meeting at Susie's house and we're going on a quadruple date. Like it was never like that. Like my friends that were not of the brown or Black persuasion, their adventures in dating were like so different. Like I literally can remember people having to like pretend like they spending the night at somebody's house or got a student council lock in just to go out on a date. And it's like when you're lying or like being deceitful, trying to do stuff, you get in trouble. Like it would be such a more productive world with if those type of conversations were normalized, not even just with like your parents, but just like in friend groups or with your peers or whatever. Like I know boys talk like locker room talk, but we keep a lot of stuff secret. Like women, especially growing up, like we were not having conversations about like periods or bodies and like all this stuff. I don't know if men were, maybe they were, maybe because I don't know. I can't speak for them, but I don't think like people were doing that. Like you see the locker room and weird stuff that like they have on TV with like white boys and putting parts on each other. I don't know if Black boys was doing all of that. Like I don't know if we were ever just allowed to be that free, or if it was just like okay, like oh that's just good boys fun or whatever. Like I don't think it.
I wasn't allowed to be that free. I remember, once I became a teenager, the whole conversation was, oh, you could date at 16. So I'm like, okay, boom. So when I turned, my birthday's in the summertime. So that means I'm not going to be around any friends because I wasn't supposed to go to my high school. I begged my grandma to go. And so she would have to take me because it wasn't in my zone so I could go. But when I turned 16, I'm thinking, oh, school about to start back up. I'm about to be dating. And it was this one guy that I was so in love with, Tony Alexander. Shout out to Tony if you listen, but I know you're not. But shout out to him. I was so in love with this guy. Like, he was just so everything to me. And I just thought, and I think he did ask me out on a date. And I was 16, and my grandparents were like,
Exactly.
not at all. And like I said, I stayed in their house, but my mom was still at my grandma's house literally every day. I just didn't live in the house with her for no reason. And she was like, well, you better do what I did. And I was like, what? She was like, tell them to pick you up at the end of the street. I'm like, what? Like,
see, and
I'm like, you need to trump them. You need to trump them. She didn't trump them. And I don't even know how it was that I had my first date, but I remember I did have like my first date with somebody in a car away from the house. I think maybe my little cousins had to come or something.
Child, my first date was prom.
Really?
Prom.
Dang. That he came to your house and pick you up?
Mm-hmm. Like, that was literally the first date. And then
were y'all talking on the phone?
Child, I had a blind date for prom, technically.
You had an arranged date?
I did.
Whose son was this?
Listen, life for me ain't always been no crystal staircase.
I see.
Like, I had like somebody that I dated in high school. But I was all Captain Virginity, so he had like somebody else that he would deal with. Mm-hmm. So the person who he would deal with the Captain Virginity that was not on my same team, they would do their thing. So it was kind of like a situation where when it was time for prom, it was like, I'm gonna go to prom with her because I ain't trying to be rolling no dice to see if this perfect moment is gonna align and you're gonna want to do all this stuff. So like, my friends came up with like this, oh, we got to find somebody. We're going to get you somebody to go to prom with. So like, she called some people from her church and like, she's literally going through the roster of like people who would be available, like who could make an impact. Like, oh, this person got to play sports. This person got to do this, whatever. So she ends up finding somebody from her church who had a girlfriend, mind you. But it was like, this is a business transaction. We just need you to show up. You play basketball, you do this. All right, you check off all these boxes. Nobody need to know about this. We're going to ask your girlfriend for permission, whatever.
Really?
Yes, you are merely escorting her. We walking into the prom. We doing this walk. We taking these pictures and you're going to drop me back off. And then I'm going to go drive and do whatever I need to do at the after prom party. But it was like, I need somebody who is going to be able to help me make a entrance, because it was like, no, you're not going to let this person win. You're going to go to prom and you're going to be flying. You're going to have a date and blah, blah, blah. So yeah, that was my prom story.
Shout out to your friends. I don't know if you know, but I did ROTC all 4 years. So I went to military ball like all 4 years. So I did do that. I only did prom 1 year, that was senior year. But I think so maybe this is weird because I couldn't have like no dates, no one-on-one dates. So I don't know what I did for the first military ball, first or second, but I know I didn't ride in no boy's car. I don't know if somebody's parent drove us. I feel like one time I had a limousine, but I can't honestly remember that far back. But wow, Fallon, that's different. That's real different.
Yeah. But I feel like experiences kind of shape you.
Oh, and for sure.
I can't say that I have not lived like a colorful storied life or whatever. Like, I'm grateful for all the memories. I'm grateful for all the things that maybe kept me out of harm's way or maybe kept me from getting caught up in bad situations. So I can't really, like, I can only look back at it and laugh. Like, my parents, like, y'all was tripping, but then y'all wasn't tripping because y'all was kind of smart because you saw what was going around and happening everywhere else. But then it's also like, man, y'all just didn't know.
But I feel like it's such a thin line though, and there's no book for being a parent, especially when it comes to the sex thing. I do feel like you exposing your kids to something in a safe environment is better than the world exposing them to something in an unsafe environment. I will say that just because I have some family members who at one point in time, they didn't allow their kids to watch Disney. And I'm like, wow, Disney?
Well, in retrospect, those cartoons were a little mature. A lot of the stuff we were watching was kind of like these jokes make a lot of sense now as I'm a grown up looking back at it, but that innuendo was going over my head when we was little kids. So maybe they were on to something with the not watching the Disney.
Well, maybe they were, but I'm saying you cannot keep your child from everything is what I'm saying. And
Yeah,
so
no,
with us living in a sex forward society, you just can't, and I feel like it's better to just, speak to them about it first than having them find out through friends, because a lot of that information that's given or that was given to me in the past was misinformation.
yeah, a lot of misinformation and a lot of stuff that probably got a lot of people hurt. But even with that, I don't know. I just had this pop into my brain. Like, you gotta even be open with those conversations with your partner too. Like,
No,
you
you
can't like
do.
not talk about your sex or previous situations because it may not, like not like no detail. Nobody's trying to get all intricate with it or whatever, like cringy. But like those are conversations you gotta have too, because you want your person to know what you've experienced. You want your person to know like what you've been through or what you've seen or what you kind of had to deal with. Because even then, like those are important conversations that just need to be happening, like transparency.
No, I agree. I do remember I had a boyfriend in college or whatever, and anywho's, but I remember we had an encounter one time, and after the encounter, I was just like, okay, guys, TMI. I was just like, babe, did you eat my booty?
Kristin, you know what?
The people need to know this type of stuff, but this was a conversation that we had, and he was like, you know what? I think I did. And we both started laughing because like he never done it. I never had it done, but I liked it. Can we keep doing it? But yeah, I do think that you need to have these conversations on what you like and what you dislike, and some things, I just feel like for so long we've been made to believe that sex is bad or you have to wait into this or it's shameful. And I applaud women that can live sexually allowed, you know what I mean? And you don't feel any type of way because you're just being who you are and you're being true to yourself, because having multiple sexual partners does not make you a hoe. You know what I mean?
Hoes be getting paid. Like if you're a real hoe.
Well,
like,
hoes get paid. That's what I'm saying. Having sexual partners don't make you no hoe. That's
like it's a difference.
It's
like,
a difference.
Terminology is different, but I do think that just the fluidness or like being able to talk about it without somebody making you feel dirty or making you feel ashamed about it is important, because that's the main reason people don't talk about a lot of stuff. Like it's so much shame and it's just so much negativity that could be portrayed in someone's actions and so many stereotypes and so many stigmas that conversations about it, like it's sacred. Yes, I'm not ever going to be out here just blasting like, oh, me and my man did this, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Like certain things are sacred, but not talking about relations in your marriage or not talking about how often you doing XYZ with like your other married friends or something like that. I feel like those are conversations that could be normal. Like I feel like somebody may want help or somebody may want a listening ear or just want to see if a situation is normal, because those are things that happen. Like if you don't have anybody to talk to or you don't know like what the norm, like how are you going to figure it out?
Yeah, and I also think to take it a step further in our community, because that's pretty much what I know, I feel like that's why we have so many issues with people or men being on a deal, because they are not allowed to be their authentic selves. With the Black community, the stereotypes, the name calling, et cetera, et cetera. I know I've had this conversation with people, because you can experience something. And if you experience something, does that change your sexual orientation? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What you like. It doesn't. It means you had an experience. And it's crazy how as women, we can have experiences and we're good. Like nobody thinks anything. You had an experience. Oh, okay. But if a man does that same thing, then his whole orientation changed. And we think about, the actor on P-Valley, him acting as a role. And then there's conversation that, oh, well, he must really be like this because he played a role. And it's like, well, if you're an actor or actress, you're supposed to be able to play any type of role. So why would you think that changed this man's sexual orientation?
But we still have a lot of like queer fear in the Black community. We still kind of
Yes.
have like a lot of homophobia. We still have a lot of people who don't even want to use certain words because it can be misconstrued as something that is really not. And I've seen people talking about that actor. Shout out to Lil Murda. He give him an Emmy, give him something because
Yes, he needs
has
something,
played
honey. He
a
played that.
hell of a job. But I think like the person who's playing Jeffrey Dahmer, he's not gay in real life, but everybody is talking about how critically acclaimed his performance is.
Well, what's the main thing?
He
One
white.
person is Black and another is
Yeah,
white. So
he
that's
white.
always going
They get a little
back
bit
to
more
that.
freedom and liberty to explore and kind of use labels that don't have shame attached to them.
Right.
But no, I be feeling bad for us with that. Like it's really kind of like sad. Like we get judged at such a more strict standard than others that don't look like us. And
Right.
I just ugh.
And
It can be
sometimes we do it to
exhausting.
ourselves, though. So sometimes it's not always other people doing it to us. It's within, but
I don't even think it's other people doing it to us. It's very Black
no,
on
it's
Black.
very, yeah. It's just us.
I don't
Another effect of
really.
slavery.
Yeah. Now I've heard of like the phenomenon of like white cultures fetishizing or like over sexualizing Black bodies or Black
Mhm.
women or Black children and things of that nature. Now I do think that's
I think that's
true,
real. Mhm.
but I think we do a lot of it too. But it's also kind of like fear factor. Like we saying a lot of stuff like don't be fast, don't be this, don't be that.
But don't wear this because your uncle coming over.
Child, that could be
Girl,
a
that's a
whole
whole nother.
nother episode in and of
Yes.
itself. Because people not going to talk about assault or rape or like incestual stuff either in the Black communities. A lot of times, like people
Yeah.
don't want to talk about that. And anytime you got them conversations with like, well, funny Uncle Mike coming, so don't leave the kids with Uncle Mike. Like
Mhm.
that's a whole nother topic for a whole nother day that probably would deserve an even more stricter trigger warning and a little bit more viewer discretion. Because I know that topic right there opens up a lot of pain for a lot of people and just a lot of
Definitely.
like negativity, like so much to unpack and unfold with that one. Like, ugh, Black people. And you over here mad at me talking about the nasty woman's disease. Now we got way other stuff that's
We do
that's
have
even
other
worse.
stuff that's more,
That
yeah.
stuff that's way worse than that. But I do think that just conversations like this are helpful. I feel like we have a lot of conversations that are very helpful, that can be, funny, but also realistic, but also something that might be a helpful hand for somebody. Like, don't be afraid to ask for help, even if it's like a problem. Like, don't be too ashamed. Like some people, like if you're experiencing pain during sex, don't be so high and mighty that you don't say
Right.
nothing, because that could be a serious problem. That's the same thing as just like not discussing different phenomenons that are occurring. Like maybe it's not that large. Maybe you're in pain. Maybe you have a cyst, or maybe you need to talk to somebody else to see if there's a bigger problem. Like we got to be more open. And it's a big difference between just like talking to run your mouth or tell people business or being messy and stuff like that. It's a point where the conversations that you're having have to be productive also. Like I get we done laughed and reminisced and all of that,
Yeah.
but it's definitely stuff that I'm going to take with me when I have my babies and when they get older and get ready to ship off to their little HBCU. I'm going to make sure that they got them a box full of 2045 latex or
Get the
whatever
skin. I like the skin brand.
whatever material they're using. I'm gonna need them to have experience, like a little game. I'm gonna want their daddy to put them on game and teach them more
Right.
than it's more life lessons than don't you have no baby for nobody. Like it's bigger than that. Like that should not be our biggest fear right now. Because then you'd be 40 sitting up talking about, well, I ain't had no kids. Well, damn, they told us not to in our prime baby next week.
Exactly. They sure did. That's what they told us.
Like, let's not create more problems for people to run into later in life by preaching all of that. Like, hey, ain't nothing wrong with having a baby in your 20s, but let's just make sure that you got the right tools and right help and right idea and right support system behind you.
Right. Your
Like,
village.
that's to be what we talking about more so than trying to scare people not to do stuff.
I agree. And I think, if I were to give like a closing statement on it, always find somebody that you can trust,
Yeah.
because I think that's important. in anything, you need at least one person that you can trust, that you can ask the question to, and that you can get a truthful and an honest answer from. And I mean, if you guys ever need to reach out to Fallon or myself, feel free to DM me. I mean, I know that we have probably some older people that listen to us, but if we have anybody that's like teen or a little bit young adult that's listening and you going through something, let somebody know, because 9 times out of 10, they probably lived that experience. And if they haven't, they know someone that has, and we can at least get you the proper help that you may need.
Yeah, and even if it isn't a younger person, like just conversations about what is acceptable, what isn't acceptable, or if something doesn't feel right, like, oh, well, I did this and this happened, and I don't know if this was what XYZ, whatever. I feel like still sharing those things, it's no reason to be ashamed of stuff that's happening. It's no point in being like, fearful to let people know, like, hey, this occurred and it just didn't feel right. Like, anybody can have those types of conversations.
For sure.
So what you about to do now?
I don't know if you guys know, but I started my lock journey over the summertime. So right now I'm just over here cleansing my scalp because it's not yet time for a retwist. So I'm just trying to make sure my scalp is cleansed. And I'm probably about to go on some shopping apps and window shop.
Yeah. Well, I'm about to still continue to work on my computer. We've now determined that she does not have that quote unquote nasty woman's disease that I mentioned earlier. We're going to work on our terminology. We're going to say that she's sick and I may be in need of some new equipment. Mm-hmm. And we're going to go about minding our business and being you better than me.
Thank you guys for joining in to this episode, and we will be back with another episode soon.
Bye.
Bye.
You Better Than Me is a podcast on Pyro Media Network, produced by Pyro Media Productions. Pyro Media Network and Pyro Media Productions are subsidiaries of Pyro Media Enterprises. For more information, please visit www.pyromedianetwork.com. Thank you for listening, and we will see you on the next.